welcome to the 757 Spy Flight Deck. We've got another one of those cold and dark videos, and wow, is this the longest Airbus you've ever seen or what? This is the fabulous Airbus A340-600. This is from ToLiss, and I've got to tell you, this is really one of the most interesting airplanes out there. It's interesting because it's such a long haul. And it's also just, I mean, it's so freaking long or something. Hi, I'm Dave. I do the 757 Spy Flight over on Twitch. And one of the things that I like to do is cold and dark videos. And the whole point of the cold and dark videos that I'm doing is to help people who don't know every nook and cranny of a professional jetliner be able to get something like this out of the gate, up in the air, cruise, land, and get back to the gate, and have a little bit of success. These are very, very complex airplanes, and I'll tell you, in the world of flight simulation, these airplanes are getting more complex every single day. So I do have a cold and dark video for you today, and today's cold and dark video is the Olympic A340-600. We are in Zurich, and we're going to Athens in this old school Olympic jetliner. We're going to fly a flight that's semi-close to a real-world flight. The local departure time's 2:35. We should be in Athens by 6:15. We are at gate Alpha 57. As far as the add-ons and things that I use, I've used Sim Toolkit Pro, Sim Brief, and sometimes SkyVector are my flight planners. Navigraph data and ADP charts are what I'm using for charts, and I'm also using Better Pushback, and those are really what it is that I'm doing. A couple of things here before we take off. I try to keep these as simple as I possibly can. You can hop down rabbit holes later. The goal is to take off, land, and do it successfully. One suggestion I make is before you get ready to go, get your charts ready to go. And finally, one of the things I say at the beginning and the end of all of these, this is not about the right way versus the wrong way. This is just what works for me, and hopefully it will help you get your airplane up in the air. If this is the first cold and dark video you've seen with me, the whole goal of this also is for you to fly along with me. This is YouTube. You can stop and start the video. You can even roll it back if I did something a little too fast, so that when I push a button, you can push a button and you can start seeing how it is that you get an airplane like this going. So yeah, do pause and restart the video. And then after we do this video, one of the things I like to suggest is do the flight out of your hometown airport to a big city airport, or a big city to another big city, something like that. Do something from your hometown, from the airports that you operate out of. That's just going to help you remember some of the things that maybe you picked up here. And then finally, in the end of all of this, join us on the Twitch Spy Flights if you possibly can. We're live usually Tuesday through Sunday at 1900 Zulu. That's about 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Like I said, Tuesday through Sunday. And we're all just flying along and having a good old time together. Our flight today, our cruise is at flight level 390. We're going to be on those airways. It's a pretty long flight plan, so I didn't have every waypoint in there. Our flight time should be about 2 hours and 15 minutes. We're going to go a whole 1,041 nautical miles. So let's see. Let's go on in here. One of the things that I'll be putting over on the in the description here on YouTube is cut and paste this thing. These are my flight notes, and these are just some of the little bits of information that I keep in front of me, especially on a VATSIM flight. And of particular notice right here, this little number right here, this is called the out time, and this is what real pilots have. They have an out time, and the real current Zulu time while I'm recording this, it is 13:20 Zulu. And it looks like we need to be out of the gate by 13:35 Zulu. Those kinds of numbers are important, especially as you progress through the world of flight simulation, and you're going to want to fly in something like Cross the Pond because you have to do an on-time departure. So we've got to do an on-time departure. I do have my charts all set up here, and I'm using the Lido style of charts from NDP from Aerosoft. You can also use the Jepson style of charts, and you can do the Jepson charts through Navigraph. In fact, my nav data is through Navigraph, But I kind of like this new format. It's something I've been learning. And we are here at gate Alpha 57 on the A concourse here in Zurich. Our departure runway is runway 34, so it's a pretty simple taxi on out. It's a pretty good long runway here. So A34 is our departure. As we take off, we're going to be taking off and making a right turn and coming out here on the Digis 4 Hotel departure. Coming into Athens, we are coming in, I believe, on Nimes 4. Yep, good old Nimes 4. I've done this one so many times. And at Nimes 4, we make a right turn here at the Didymon VOR, and then we stop here at the Aegina. Well, we don't stop, but at the Aegina non-directional beacon. Then this is going to set us up for a really interesting approach here. So we go over Aegina and come in over the old Athens airport. We actually fly over the new Athens airport, come out about 15 miles or so, actually 14 miles, and do a turn at 3,000 feet to come in and land. Our landing runway for us at Venizelos is going to be runway 21 left. We'll be exiting the high speed. That's going to take us right in to the main Aegean Airlines terminal. We'll try and grab gate Alpha 3, which I believe is one of the bigger gates. We could also do Alpha 30, but I don't think that they're using an awful lot of the satellite right now. So there we go. That is the flight plan there. Let's hop into the best seat in the house. And one of the things is if you get a little bit better with your cameras, you can go and you can maybe try and do a walk down the jetway. One of the things that I would really, really like someday is for American airports to have these really cool jetways that have windows so that, you know, we can see the, you know, cool stuff. But of course, that's probably not going to happen. So we'll come over here and the door is open and you can kind of come in here and we'll explore the airplane here. Yeah, the full cabin is modeled. And we'll kind of slide over here. And there's the door to the cockpit. I think it's closed, so we're going to have to go like this to get inside. I don't think you can open the cockpit door except from the inside. There it is. So, yeah, we can open it from there. And here's our cockpit. Looks an awful lot like the Airbus A319, 20, and 21. This is when Airbus is trying to do some standardization, make it easier for pilots to transition up through the bigger and bigger airplanes. One thing that I do like to suggest when you're doing stuff is as soon as you get in your airplane, I call it jiggling the controls. Just move it around a little bit. Move your rudder pedals. Look over here. Make sure that you can do your throttles. Does your speed brake handle work? Do your flap handles work? Does the brake handle work? Just make sure that your controllers are all connected. Now, as I mentioned, I do use Sim Toolkit Pro and SimBrief. This is our flight plan. And one of the things that you can do is you can go and export a flight plan. So if you go in, I've already done this, but go over here to export a flight plan. And this thing is going to pop up here. So right now, the ToLiss airplanes do not attach to the Hoppy ACARS network, which is a great way to just download your flight plan from SimBrief, which is really nice, especially when you have all those checkpoints. But you can go and you can export an FMS plan file. So you hit that button, and for this airplane, you're going to use the X-Plane 11 format, and you just put it in X-Plane, Output, and FMS Plans folder. That's where you go and you put that in there. When you do that, that's going to go ahead and put the flight plan in where the flight management computer can get it. I think eventually we're going to be able to get it through a ACARS type of a system. It does look like they're trying to model an ATSU and an AOC system. And those are really big words, and those are things that you access through the flight management computer down here. And just for the record, thank you to my friend Sibby over on Twitch. ATSU stands for Air Traffic Services Unit, and AOC is Airline Operations Control. One of the other things that's really starting to happen in the world of VATSIM is CPDLC. That's Controller Pilot Data Link Communications. That's essentially text messaging between airplanes and air traffic controllers. No, you don't use your iPhone. You do it through the airplane computers and stuff. But I got to tell you, it's one of those really cool things that's coming. And I think that they're getting ready to model that in some of the ToLiss airplanes too. This airplane is really nicely done. I think that this is ToLiss's most advanced model to date. And I really do like this one. So with all of that yammering done, let's go ahead and turn on the airplane. And just like any Airbus, the on switch is the battery buttons. And we've got battery 1, battery 2, and an APU. So let's turn them on. 1, 2, and 3. As you look there, our batteries are on. We do have not 1, but 2 external power systems. So external 1 and external 2 is going to go on. And the airplane is slowly coming to life. I think I have the volume perhaps turned down on X-Plane. Let's turn this up and get the sounds. There's some sounds. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is turn on nav and logo lights. And today, the date that I'm recording this is the 21st of February. That is an odd day. So one of the things is some Airbus pilots, there's 2 nav and logo light systems. They're identical, 1 and number 2. You can use number 1 on odd days and number 2 on even days. Another thing that they will do is if the pilot is flying the airplane, they'll use nav system 1. If the co-pilot, the first officer's flying, nav system 2. There are all sorts of different things that you could do on that. So we got nav and a logo light system on, and we're going to be fueling the airplane. So I'm going to turn my no smoking system on right now. And the airplane is slowly coming to life. Next thing we got to do is we got to turn up the intensity of the instrument panels here. So let's go over, and the primary flight display, often called the PFD, turn it up to about, I'd say 2 o'clock. The same deal with the ND, the navigation display, that's the map. Now, one thing about this one, on all the Airbuses, these controls, it's actually 2. So let's see if I can slide over here, look over like that. So we can turn this up to about 1 or 2 o'clock. See how I turned it up? The second one, that's your map. So it turns down the intensity of the map in the background. I usually just leave that straight up. And so that turns those on. Look down here, we got a couple of buttons to turn on, and that's the ECAM, the upper and the lower. So let's turn these up to about 1, 2 o'clock. And that's these guys right here. That's these right in the middle. And you could also, if you want to be nice to the first officer, you could go over here and reach all the way over there and turn up the first officer as well. You may need to also adjust your McDo here. And so turn up the brightness there. And sometimes you might have to turn on your radios. And so all of that is good, and the airplane's coming to life. One of the other things that I like to do on some of the other Airbuses is come down here. There's integrated lighting and flood lighting, and that just basically turns on the background lighting that you see here. And I like to turn those sorts of things up because it just makes the control panel a little bit easier to see. And in fact, if you look over here, there's some knobs under here that turns up the intensity of the integrated or background lighting up here on the flight control unit. And again, it just makes the instruments kind of pop out a little bit, and the labels pop out. And if you're really kind of busy, it just makes things move a little faster. Okay, so we got those things turned on. Let's go down here, and we are using navigation cycle 22-2201. That is the current cycle for this. So we've got current nav data, and you get that through Navigraph or NDP charts. We're going to start off with the init page now, and in other Airbuses, what you would do is you'd go to the that ATSU and AOC thing. Those are not modeled in this thing yet, but they do have the pages, so they're building the pages. So there's a chance we're going to get to see that soon. To start this process, we're going to put in our departure airport, which is Zurich, LSZH, LSZH. Do the little slash. And then we're going to Athens, which is LGAV. Put that in from and to, and if you exported your flight plan like I did, it's going to see that, and you can see, there it is, and you can insert your flight plan from there. Boy, does that save you an awful lot of work. We are flying as Olympic Flight 441, so OAL, and we are Flight 441. We'll put in a flight number. Our cost index, we got that off of the flight plan Oh, yes, we got a big old flight plan here. My cost index is 180. I never get cost indexes like that. Usually SimBrief is making me go super slow. And my cruise altitude, again, off the flight plan, is flight level 390. And those are my basics. So those are the basics. We're going to look up here now, and it's time to turn on the navigation system. So we come up here, and you just do 1, 2, 3. So 1, nav. It's going to go with a fault light and flash a little bit. You'll see on battery. Number 2, fault light on battery. And number 3, I usually wait till the on battery light goes out. Make sure each one of the IRs are connected to the battery. You lose power, at least their IRs are still connected to your batteries, and that means, hey, guess what? We have an opportunity to not get lost while we've lost power. You've noticed that I've left the passenger number blank here. So what I like to do is let's slide this over here and let's get the giant green box. Okay, I think Mr. ToLiss would like me to call this the ToLiss Interactive Simulation Control System. But I call it the giant green box, and I have my external power A and B on, and I also have my chocks in place. Okay, I've also got my main door open and my cargo doors open, and all the other ones are closed. And now we're going to do loading information. On your flight plan, SimBrief's going to give you a random zero fuel weight for your airplane. And my zero fuel weight today is 213,483. This is in kgs. So I do, Airbus in kgs. So basically that's 213.4. So look at this number right here. So it says 215.9. So let's go ahead and I'm going to roll my cargo back a little bit. Let's put in 3.8. Well, there's do 3.6. What did that do? There's 210. Okay, so that went down below. Let's add some passengers. 213.4. So that's 213.5. Maybe another, somebody brought a baby or something like that. So there's our car, there's our late. We have 206 passengers. There's our cargo. Let's load those settings. The next thing to do is block fuel. And it used to be you had to do the slider, and I actually think you can type numbers in here too, but my fuel is 30.2. So 209 actually. So now you can click this and you can come over here and you can delete it and go 3209. That's my exact fuel from the flight plan. Hit enter and do refuel. And I've applied all of the settings here. Passengers are loaded, fuel's loaded. That's all you got to do. I actually think that's kind of nice. Some airplanes are simulating loading passengers and taking time to do fuel. That's nice as well. But I just kind of feel like this is pretty cool. So it just makes, we get to fly sooner. And remember the number of passengers, 206. So we're going to come over here now and put in 206. So it knows how many passengers are there. Now we may need to go and do the IRS and it. I don't think I did that. So I'm just usually go and align on the ref and confirm. And that should take care of that. There's a little confusion in my world about that, whether you actually have to do that or not. But that's how I'm doing that. Okay, and our airplane continues to come to life. Looks like it started to rain here. So you know what? We may need to get an updated weather forecast. And I usually get that through... if I'm just doing a flight like this and I'm not on VATSIM or something, I usually just go and grab it here. So LSZH. And you put it in the bottom and look down here, and yep, sure enough, we got some showers. And I usually just copy everything over to the altimeter setting, and I'm going to slide this into my notes. There we go. So winds are 230 at 17, gusting to 30. Holy cats. It's going to be a little bouncy taking off today. Light showers, few clouds at 1,200. It's 5 degrees, dew point's 1. The altimeter, 1012. So we could slide this out of the way, and let's do our altimeters. 1012. Oh, look at that. It's set. How about that? How about the backup altimeter? We can drop that down to 1012. There we go. That's set. Our altimeters are checked. Now let's do the flight plan. So go to F plan. Go to the top here. LSZH. Go to the departure. SimBrief says runway 34. It's probably pretty good based on the winds, so runway 34. And then we want our departure, which is DG for Hotel. Click that in there. There's no transition, so hit insert. And if we want to be like the real pilots, let's go up here, and we're going to switch the map over to plan mode. I'm going to drop this down to 10 miles, and I'm going to turn on constraints. And now let's pop it out, and we're going to just set this thing right next to this, and we're going to go and just go straight through the flight plan. And there we are. We'll see the constraints, make sure that everything's kind of connected, make sure that something isn't sending you in the complete opposite direction that you want to go in. All right, and then at the bottom, you've got your destination, which is LGAV, Athens. Let's hit our arrival. We know that we're going to be doing the ILS for runway 21 left. So let's look down here. ILS 21 left. Okay, there's the Yankee and the Zulu. All right, it seems to me that those sorts of things are different at every airport. Right now, usually I will do the Zulus at Athens. They seem to connect the best with the stars that I use. So we're going to do the ILS 21 left Zulu. So ILS 21 left Zulu, and then we're going to need to get the NEAMS, the Nimi 2 Bravo arrival. So look for Nimi. There's 1 Alpha up to Bravo. Put that in, and we are going to come in via. Remember the non-directional beacon we're coming over. The end of the star is the Agena or EGN. Non-directional beacon, so EGN. No transition after that. Let's hit insert, and we can continue. Okay, there is a route discontinuity after Kia and Didymon. Now this looks a little bit kinky to me. So after Nimes, I don't know that we actually go to Kia after that. So after there's Nimes, then we do Didymon, and then we do Agena. I don't recall that we go to Kia. So I'm going to delete that. I don't think we go to Kia at this point. So I'm going to delete Kia. You know what? Hang on. Am I being stupid? See, this has got us going back to Agena and then over Athens. So see, this picks it up at EGN. These things happen. So after EGN, then we go to ATV, then SPA. See, Kia is way over here. I don't think we're going to Kia here. I don't think that's right. You're going to run into things like this. So that's why you take a look at your flight plan. So after Didymon, we want to go to ATV. So I'm going to delete this, the Kia. I'm also going to delete this Agena. And I'm going to delete the discontinuity. And I'm going to insert that. Okay, did I really mess up my flight plan here? Am I an idiot? Okay, so there's Nimes. There's Didymon. There's, okay, now all of a sudden the EGN is gone. And it takes us directly to ATV. So I clearly deleted the wrong thing there. So after Didymon, I think we can go, and after this, can we do, next waypoint is EGN. Put it back in. Don't be afraid to play with your, play with these. And temporary flight plan and insert. So Didymon, Agena, and ATV. You see how quickly you can get confused? And insert that. Okay, let's go back up here a little bit. Okay, so there's the star, Nimes, Didymon, there's Agena, there's ATV, there's SPA, this is us, there is our DME arc, and there's that, and there's our missed approach. Sometimes these things are going to get a little messed up, so. Okay, so that's good. So there's the flight plan, and I think we're set. We can go ahead and get rid of this now. Let's see, our final cruising altitude, if we were going to be cruising, if we were going to be on VATSIM, we would put in our cleared altitude. We're not on VATSIM, so I'm just going to put my final cruise right up there. So that looks good. Passengers are aboard. The flight plan is done. Sometimes I'll set up a secondary flight plan. We can do that really fast. So go to the init page. We are at LSZH / LSZH. So that's like Zurich to Zurich. So that's in there. GPS primary, everything's aligned. So then go back to secondary, go to the flight plan, LSZH, go to arrivals. Our departure runway is going to be runway 34. So ILS 34, and just insert that. And now if you look over here, let's see, let's go to the top of this. And now what we should be seeing here is this should show us our departure airport and our arrival airport. We may need to go to flight plan and go to the top. Now look at the secondary. So there's our flight plan. There's our departure at LSZH. Go to the secondary. Come on in here. Oh, I know what the problem is. It's just too small. So now you can see if we lose an engine, our approach is already installed. It's already there. All you do is activate the secondary flight plan if you have to come in and land. I think that that's kind of one of the brilliant things that they've set up here in FMSs, and I think it's really neat. Okay, we're ready to go. I say we get a pushback truck ready. So go to plugins, go to better pushback, and let's just go ahead and start it right now.
Ground to cockpit. Please show me where you want to go.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and push and spin. So we're going to do a push and spin. And all of this is looking good, so just hit enter.
Ground to cockpit. Tow is driving up.
All right, the tow is driving up. It's time to finish up the McDo and get McDon. Yeah, that's getting old. All right, so over here, go back to the giant green box, go to ground services, and I'm going to start closing the doors. We're going to close up cargo. So cargo, you can even hear the cargo doors closing. Let's close the main door to the airplane. So that's good. Let's also go ahead and start up the APU. Probably should have done that a little sooner. APU is open. Look back here when it says the flap is open. Good time that you could go ahead and turn it on. Some airplanes will let you turn it on immediately. Some make you wait for the flap. And that's the little thing in the back of the airplane that lets the air into the APU.
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect. Set parking brake.
The flap is open. My parking brake is set, so that's good. We'll come up here and let's start up the APU. Passengers are in their seats, so we're going to go down and we're going to do seatbelts are on. And I'm also going to arm the emergency exits now, and those are ready to go. They're going to go ahead and connect. While they're connecting, let's go down here and do performance. And slide this over here. Giant green box again. And let's go to loading. And we're going to do flaps 3 for takeoff. This airplane is so long. How long is it? It is so long that you do flaps 3 so you don't do a tail strike on your departure. So this gives us our information.
Tow connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
We don't have to do that till we're ready. So flaps 3 / our trim setting is going to be up 4.6. Now in older Airbuses, the smaller Airbuses, when you set the trim setting in there, yeah, that's there for your own reference and you set your own trim setting. On this airplane, it sets it for you automatically, which I think is pretty cool. Flex temperature, we're going to 57 degrees on this airplane. You have to hit the letter F and go to 57. And there's our flex. We're going to, V1 is 148. VR is 148. And V2 is 153. All that's good. Transition altitude is set. That's great too. All right, stop. No, stop. As the Spice Girls once sang, stop right now, thank you very much. I need a pilot that can sit in this chair and actually have a clue. I forgot to do something. What could possibly go wrong? Well, when you forget to do something like this, Yeah, anyway, there was a problem and I need to pick something up here. So we've just gone through, we've done the flight plan. We're going to clear this out now and we're going to go. What I forgot to do was init page B. Okay, so come on over here and we're going to slide this over here and get the giant green box. First of all, passengers, I've got, this is different because I obviously am setting up this airplane after a second one, but so 180 passengers. I forgot to do init page B. So go over here and you hit the right arrow and then you look over here and our setting here, 215.9, 215.9. Okay, so that's going to be zero fuel weight now, as it is on this plane. And then the zero fuel weight center of gravity, 18.1, 18.1. I'll be yammering about this in just a second, but that's important. You got to put these numbers in, otherwise there are things that don't work. So our block fuel is 30.4, 30.4. This goes over here. So that goes in and see how it's doing some calculations, very important things. I'm going to leave the screw up in there and I will, you know, yammer about that. But anyhow, that's that. So anyhow, thanks for putting up with that. Now back to the, yeah. If we go and look up here, you can see that the APU is now available. So with the APU available, we're going to go ahead and the generator is online, so we can disconnect from ground power. I'm also going to do the APU bleed and put that into the system so we get some pneumatics going. Let's also turn on the beacon because we are getting ready to go. All that's looking good. Let's go back to the arc is the one that I generally like, and let's dial this down to 0. I think we're almost ready to go. Looks like the airplane's good. If we were on VATSIM, we'd come down here and we would get on 122.8 and we would announce our intentions or talk to the tower. Let's go ahead and even though we're not, I always squawk mode Charlie because that's what you do on taxiways and VATSIM. And while I'm down here, I'm going to just turn on my TCAS traffic. And all of this is good. The airplane's ready for push. So look over there, we're ready to go. Look over there, we're ready to go. Come on up here. Let's hit the all call button. Let the cabin crew know that we're going to actually start rolling this big bird around. Look down here, there's your parking brake. And we're almost ready to push. So one of the things is I do use the Thrustmaster. What happened? We're not going. I know why. Let's put the parking brake back on. You know what we need to do? We need to go and get the giant green box. We need to go to ground services, and we've disconnected from ground power, so we have to turn that off, and we have to pull the chocks. Now let's see what happens. Parking brake is off.
Starting pushback, and you may start the engines.
There we go. So you got to pull those little chocks. Now, better pushback will actually pull the chocks on some airplanes for you. Guess not this one. All right, so everything's looking good here. Airplane is slowly pushing back. A very, very big, long airplane. A super long airplane. And if you're wondering what this is, no, it's not smoke. We've got rain. So that's the simulator showing rain on the tires. 4 very big engines there, and now that we're pushing back, let's go ahead and start the engines. I'm using the Thrustmaster TCA Airbus stuff, so we can go ahead and pop that on. I don't know what my whether my switches are working. Let's see. Look at that. It's going to do engine number 1 for me. So it's going to start the FAR engine number 1. 8, 9, 10. So this is the N3. And I think after the N3 gets past like 20%, you can start up the next engine. And let's do number 2. So you can start both of those on the same side if you want. I might not have that number correct. It might be a smaller number than that. While we're pushing back, another thing to do is look over here. Make sure that you've got your charts ready to go if you're on VATSIM. So we're going to come out of the inner taxiway here. From the inner taxiway, we're going to go on link 3 to taxiway Echo. From taxiway Echo, we're going to go down to Echo 9 and take off and do a full run at this runway. And our engines are slowly coming up. There's engines number 2 and 1. Engine number 1's available. Guess what I forgot to do? I forgot to turn on my fuel pumps. Boy, am I a bad pilot today. Hey, I haven't had that much coffee. It's early in the morning.
Operation complete. Please set parking brake.
All right, we'll set the parking brakes. Parking brakes are set. And now what don't you like?
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
Hey, look at that. Engines are available. We got 2 engines going. I say we start another engine. Let's look down here. And the only buttons I have are buttons 1 and 2. So I don't have 3 and 4. I only have 2 throttles right now. So let's do engine 3. One of the things that I'm thinking of doing is buying a second TCA officer pack. That's just the stick and the throttle. My twist stick is not working very well. So, you know, I can take it apart and clean it, but I don't want to just take it apart and risk breaking it. So I was thinking of picking up another one of those. Okay, there's about 20%. So let's go ahead and start engine 4. But then I could get 2 more throttles. And so then I'd have 4 for this airplane and the 747.
And bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the left. I'll see you next time. Have a safe flight.
Yeah, I know. I'm a little sick if I'm thinking about buying a second one so I can have 4 throttles for big jets. The first secret is admitting that you have a problem, right? There goes our pushback truck. And the airplane is slowly coming to life here. So the 2 engines are going over on the right side. Look out here. Here comes our pushback. Okay, this is the guy standing out there, giving us a thumbs up and holding up the gear pin. That's some airlines also call that the salute and release from guidance, and they make kind of a big deal about that. They say do not roll the airplane at all until you get your salute and release from guidance. That lets you know that everybody's clear from underneath the airplane. That lets you know that there's nothing in the way. And you can go and taxi out because you can't see outside this big old jet. And so they're letting you know that everything is clear under your airplane and you can go. You know, there's no ground crew person standing under here and they're going to get squashed. So, you know, these big airplanes are kind of a big deal. All right, look at that. We have got 4 big engines going. So let's go down here and get the starter system back to normal. Let's go up here. We're done with the APU. So we can go and disconnect the APU bleed, and we're just going to go turn off the APU. Looking down here, the next thing that I'll do is let's do our control columns. Control columns are good, and these guys are good. Let's look down here. Arm the speed brakes. Flaps go to takeoff, so that's going to be flaps 3 for takeoff. Auto brakes to RTO, so auto brake. There, see where it says takeoff over here? Takeoff, RTO. There we go. And look up here. Is there anything that I have neglected to turn off or on? Oh, yes, I have. It's an Airbus, so if there's a light on, that means there's a problem. Crew supply of oxygen. So we'll give the crew some oxygen. Everything else is looking good up here. All of our buttons are looking good. All the lights are out, essentially. So it's almost time for us to go. I say we do nose to taxi. And I think we're ready to go. So let's look down here. Parking brake is off. My feet are on the toe brakes. That way, while we're down there looking at our brakes, those are off. Release the toe brakes. And let's add a little bit of power, and the airplane's going to start rolling. You can see by looking out the window there about rolling. Okay, so we're coming out here. We are looking for something called Link 3. And if you look on the paint on a good airport, there's, look at that, Link 3. So Link 3 takes us this way. Now my throttles are now all the way down to idle. There's just no reason to do anything more than idle. Okay, there's the inner taxiway. There's link 3 taking us out to taxiway Echo. It says Echo 7 right in front of us. And then that should be taxiway Echo. If you're unsure, go and look outside. See how you're doing. There's the runway. There's taxiway Echo. And that's, don't be afraid to go outside. I'm not. Okay, one thing that I don't think that happened is I don't think that my pitch trim got set. So the pitch trim needs to go up. And so I must have done something wrong. I don't know what it was, but so I'm going to do my pitch trim up. So I screwed up something there. Look down at the McDo. It's supposed to be trim is up 4.6. So I'm setting my own trim. Setting your trim on an airplane is like pretty important. I've noticed 4.6. Sometimes you might have to move that. There we go, 4.6. So I did something wrong. I don't know what I did, but that's one of the things to have in the back of your mind. Make sure it's set. Now, the other bad thing that I haven't done is I did not get on my center taxi line here. So get on, put the nose of the airplane on the taxi line. It's kind of important on an airplane this big too, because you've got those big old wings and all those engines hanging out there. So there isn't necessarily enough room in some places, so that's why you stay on your taxi line. And now we can look down here and let's do the takeoff config button, just like in the A319 and A320, and our takeoff config stuff is done. The airplane is configured for takeoff. Another thing to check up here on the flight control unit, have you got dots where it says speed, heading, and altitude? If there's a dot there, that means that you've set up your McDo correctly, and all of your flight plan information is good. And so LNAV and VNAV are now essentially ready to assist you in controlling this complex airplane. Okay, this should be Echo 9, Echo 8. Oh, this is Echo 9? This is Echo 9. Yeah, you don't want to go too far. If you go too far, the runway stops there. So there's Echo 9. This is where we took off the last time we were here, from over in the cargo area. I took the A300, I believe, down to Athens, over on the live stream from here. And that's why I came back here. I thought this was kind of a cool airport. Okay, Echo 9. We're going to go ahead and stop here at the hold short line. Parking brakes are going to go on. And let's just have a quick look. The ECAB checklist is green. That's a great indicator that everything is set and ready to go. I think another thing to do is look around, grab yourself a real-world checklist for these airplanes. I actually have them printed up for a few airplanes. It really does kind of help. I think we're ready to go. So we'll assume that the tower has just told us we can line up and wait. So we're going on to an active runway. This is when I turn on my strobes. I know you can put them into auto mode. I guess that maybe I'm a control freak or something, but I just want, hey, we are going on to an active runway. I want my strobes flashing. Let everybody know, hey, there is an airplane on this runway. And out we go. Again, these big old jets, I really don't do much more than idle or barely above idle. You don't need to do a V1 taxi with these things. Throttles are at idle. Line up. So we got to line up and wait. So we're lined up and we're going to wait for a second. So we'll do parking brakes. Yep, we're pretty close to lined up. So everything seems to be set and ready to go. All right. Tower is about ready to give us clearance, so let's do parking brakes off. My feet are on the toe brakes for a second. Last step in the process, landing lights on. Everything looks good. So, just like a normal Airbus, throttles up 20% or thereabouts. And look at your engines. Are they stable? Stable. Then all the way up. Manual flex. SRS and runway are set. Auto thrust is blue. I'm reading stuff off this thing here. Manual flex, SRS and runway, and then auto thrust. Get centered up here a little bit. 100 knots. We got a little crosswind, so right rudder. Now we're back in the center of the runway. There's V1. Rotate. Up and away. Positive rate of climb. Gear. Little bit of wind blowing us off the runway there. There's landing gear. Center up your flight directors. That's these two crosshairs there on takeoff. And if you're good and you feel good about it, go ahead and hit the AP button. There's AP. Now we're not going to go and accelerate too quickly here because we got kind of a tight turn. So I don't think we're going to do a big fast acceleration at the moment. Get around this 90-degree turn. This airplane is so long. How long is it? It is so long. It's got separate time zones from the front and back of the airplane. Okay, lever climb. So that means we're going to take the throttles. Go to managed. Let's also go ahead and do flaps up 1 notch. So it's going to be holding our speed down just a bit here. If you looked at the star, we're going to go 210 around these turns here. So maximum 210. So that's, if you're wondering, we're at 210. We can also do flaps to 1 now. Okay, we're also going to hold speed 210 here at CH503. We're past the transition altitude. Come up here and pull. And so that's click it and move the mouse to pull it out. And then we'll also go and set standard altimeter on the backup. You actually push and pull with your mouse. So you click on it and push it in, move the mouse forward, or move the mouse back for a push and a pull. So 210, above flight level 6,000 feet. We could go and bring the, we're in clouds. Don't forget your engine anti-ice, that's a thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. You may even need wings if it's severe. Nice little takeoff. I think we can go ahead and disarm the speed brakes. Whoops. Feet. Everything's good so far. Oh, look at this. I forgot something. Predictive wind shear. So predictive wind shear is down here, and that's this switch here. Auto. Now it looks better. Engine anti-ice is on. That automatically turns on the ignition to continuous relight. Seat belts, no smoking, those are going to stay on. There's 10,000 feet. So at 10,000 feet, we can come up here. We're going to do the landing lights off. And we'll also do a cabin call. Let the cabin crew know it's 10,000 feet. And they need to essentially tell the passengers, hey, the seatbelt sign's still on, stay in your seat. While you're there, please notice that there is a very, very nice credit card application in the seat pocket in front of you. Why don't you fill that out? Okay, our speed is now increasing since we're past this speed constraint. We're also past the S, so that's slats. Flaps are going up. And flaps are going up. And our speed is now increasing. Passing 12,000 feet. Notice that auto brakes have turned off after the takeoff, so that's good. Don't think there's anything that I messed up here. Well, I clearly did something wrong because my trim should have set itself automatically, so I missed something. I'm trying to figure out what that is. And there's Deegs. Out there we go, 13,000 feet. Engines are still good. We're in climb mode. Everything's great there. Distance to top of climb is 82 miles. We're going to flight level 390. Olympic Airlines did not fly the 600s. So this is a 600. You can kind of tell much bigger, beefier engines here. So in the old days, Olympic, that was the old Olympic, not the current commuter, which is attached to a GM. They flew the older version. So much skinnier little engines, and I understand that it was a little bit underpowered. So the pilots were a little bit sarcastic, and they called it, you know, the 4 hair dryers. One of the things that I've done is, if you look down here, my taxi fuel, I've set to 45 minutes. I've added a bunch more taxi fuel, probably more than I need. I'm starting to add at least 45 minutes. You can add up to an hour of extra taxi fuel. And I've been starting to add just a little bit more because I've noticed that I'm getting really close to the line and over the line with some of my airplanes when it comes to fuel usage. Now, for a flight like this one, it's not such a big deal. But if you're going to take this one on across the pond, and you're out over the ocean, and you're starting to see your fuel prediction go down, and you're going to run out of fuel, essentially, that's not good. So, I've been adding a little more taxi fuel, and that has pretty much taken care of my I'm out of fuel problems. And you really don't want to run out of gas on a cross the pond event. Other pilots are going to laugh at you. We are out of the clouds. So anti-ice, off, 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 off. Now all we have is seat belts and no smoking, and everything else is in good shape. We're in thrust climb. You can see that we are in climb mode. Altitude cruise is blue. That means it's armed. That's the next thing that the airplane is going to do. We're at 320 knots. Our Mach is already at Mach 0.71, passing 21,000 feet. You see here on the map, we're essentially out of all of the departure constraints now. So we can come up here, and I usually go from constraints to airports. And I'll go to 40 miles. And now all of a sudden we're going to start to see some airports pop up. You want to have airports popped up if we lose an engine, if we have an unruly passenger, if we're out of Colombian coffee, okay, a serious problem when it comes to airplanes. You have to go to an immediate airport and land. By doing airports, now we see, oh, there's an airport right over here in 15 miles. And we can land. So that's why you turn on airports. Coffee in the morning. Very good. And today is a particularly good day to do flying like this because last night we got 4 inches of new snow and it's still snowing this morning. So temperature 1 degree Fahrenheit at minus 17 Celsius. This is what flight sim weather is all about. I mean, this is what flight sim weather is all about, right? When the weather outside is like that, it's so nice to be inside. Okay, 25,000 feet. This is my own personal, if there's no turbulence or anything like that, I'm gonna go up here and we're gonna do seatbelts. I figure there's some passenger back there that went to Starbucks and they got the venti instead of the grande and they gotta go to the bathroom. Let's also turn off the nose light. Even though it did turn itself off when the gear tucked itself up there, that takes care of that. This airplane does have a runway turnoff and camera. So what that does is that replaces one of those monitors with, and I don't think it's going to do it now because the gear's up, with a camera, and you see the nose wheel. It's a big airplane. We're kind of high up there. You're not going to be able to see gate guidance going in, perhaps. And so some of these bigger airplanes now have a camera that is essentially right underneath here, looking forward. Now, it works okay during the day. It doesn't work very good at night. So the night vision has a little bit of a thing. You might notice here, this is VOR1 and VOR2 are active. If you find that annoying, you can turn these two off here, but you can also reactivate them. This will also put an ADF on your navigation display too. So if that's in the way, you can do that. Airlines also require at least one of the pilots to have the terrain radar up. And you can see that that's kind of green. So you remember I was showing you over here, this inner knob, if you turn that down, you can see over here, let's kind of go down here, pull back a bit. So if you turn that down, that turns down, see how it turns up the map intensity? So that's what this one is for. So you can turn that up and down. I think being able to do that on the ToLiss is nice. Some of the other Airbuses that's a little bit annoying, and I have a hard time seeing what's on my navigation display. But with this, that little map intensity knob works really good. So you can also see we have a top of climb hockey stick there. The term hockey stick is a term that I first heard from Captain Mike Ray. Captain Ray does a series of books called the Flight Simulator Check Ride Manual. And originally, Captain Ray started writing those for young pilots that had to pass their first check ride, which is done in a simulator. And he started writing those books, I think, over 20 years ago. He's a retired captain for United, and he has a whole series of books. Mostly, I think he was a Boeing pilot, but he was approached to do Airbus books, and so he did some Airbus books. I have two of Captain Ray's books. One is for my beloved 757, still one of my favorite all-time airplanes, and that one's actually a print copy. And then I have a PDF copy of Captain Ray's A3 1920-21 book. And that's where I first read that the top of descent indicator is what he called the hockey stick. And so there is the top of climb hockey stick. We will have a top of descent hockey stick pop up in a little bit. And so that's how we know. And our top of climb is about 20 miles away. So that's good. What's going to happen here is once we get to top of climb, we're going to settle down, watch the airplane settle down. We'll take a look at fuel. That's the important part, especially if you're going to use this airplane on cross the pond. And this is a cross the pond airplane. We'll take a tour of the cabin, and then what's going to happen is I'm going to hit pause on the video, and then we'll pick it up about 100 miles away from Athens. About 50 miles from top of descent. This is a little bit of a longer flight here, and so I don't think that there's a reason for this to be a 2-hour video. There isn't really anything that I'm going to be doing except going over and making breakfast. And there is a video about some breakfast if you want to look at that here on YouTube. So we'll get to top of climb. we'll jump down the fuel rabbit hole. In the meantime, if you look outside, you can see some really nice mountains. We are on X-Plane. This is an X-Plane airplane, but look at that scenery. You can make X-Plane look really, 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 really good. You can. It takes a lot more work. Microsoft Flight Simulator is a great sim. It looks great. But you can also do that here, and you get the additional advantage of really, really well-done airplanes. And that's one of the things that we have, is really well-done airplanes here. And the developers are making them better and better. I flew the Flight Factor 757 in flight simulators for a very, very long time. And I didn't know a thing about Airbus. When it was time to learn about Airbus, I ordered Captain Ray's book, and then I got the ToLiss A319. That's how I learned Airbus. So the ToLiss airplanes are really, really good. I also am a huge fan of AnyBuilds, and I am not sponsored by ToLiss. I'm not sponsored by AnyBuilds. So nobody's paying me to say nice things about them. But I really like those. Another really great airplane developer that I am really liking for X-Plane is FlyJ Sim. The Q400 is a great little airplane to learn to fly. And I enjoy that one. Plus the FlyJ Sim classic Boeing jetliners, the 727 and the 737. Boy, those are a bear. I've actually given myself a case of sore shoulder and sore arm from all of the pointing and clicking that I've been doing, putting in all of the latitudes and longitudes into the 727 and 737 SEVA. The INS SEVA system, it's sort of like, that is 90% of flying those airplanes, is putting in waypoints into the SEVA. But, so, you know, definitely do your finger exercises so you don't hurt your shoulder on that one. I've had to do that. Okay, here's our climb, 39,000 feet. So we're going to go. Mach and altitude climb are green, and there's a box. So we are snagging our final cruising altitude. Looking over at the ECAM, no smoking is on. We've got everything else off. You can hear the engines dropping down as we go into cruise mode. If you look, you can see the McDo has put us into cruise mode too. We have 742 nautical miles to go from here, and right now it is estimating we're going to be there. I think 16, what was it going to be, 1605? It says 1606. With an estimated fuel on board of 12.9. That's actually pretty close to on time. That's like a minute late right now. And we will see that number gain a bit. So our departure might have been a few minutes late, but our arrival is expected to be on time in Athens. So it does look like we'll be getting to the gate right around 6:05 in the evening, 6:15 or so. So not bad. Looking down here, another big thing is fuel. So right now our destination estimated fuel on board is looking pretty good, 1209. One of the things I will do is I will hit the fuel prediction button. Uh-oh, it doesn't have my zero fuel weight. I thought I put that in there. I'm a bad pilot. Oh, you know what I did? I forgot to do that's why I forgot to do the init page B. That's why that didn't set the trim. Okay, so init page B, this is what I totally screwed up. Over on the init page, I don't think we can get there now, but there is a second page, and that's where you put in your zero fuel weight, you get your center of gravity, and that's why I knew I was forgetting something. Well, this is turning out to be a great how-to video, isn't it? But you know what? You can make mistakes. We can make mistakes in flight sim and learn from them. So I'm going to leave the mistake in. Let's do fuel prediction. The zero fuel weight for today's flight is 213.4. 213.4. Let's put that in and see if it takes it. Look at that, it did. Okay. So we were able to fix it that way. By the way, in the Indy builds, the old school Airbuses, you need to have the zero fuel weight center of gravity popped in there. Do not forget to do that, to pop in your zero fuel weight center of gravity number into the FMS. I think it was FMSs in the old Airbuses. If you turn on the engines and you haven't done that, your FMS is going to be cranky with you the entire flight. So, you know, I clearly have learned that lesson in the old school Airbuses, just not the new ones. But the most important number that I have here is this one. Estimated fuel on board when we land at 1606 Zulu in Athens. If you look over here on your flight plan, I'm using the United Airlines 2018 style of flight plan. This number right here, REMF, remaining fuel. So what if you do is, we've got three numbers here. These three numbers here, which is FAR 15 minutes and LGTS. LGTS is Thessaloniki. That is our alternate airport. And you see these three fuel numbers right here. Well, if I wanted to, I could go and get Mr. Calculator because it is way too early in the morning for me to be doing any math. Let's put those numbers in. 3511. 3511 plus 1866. 1866. And to get to Thessaloniki, 5725. 5725. Enter. 11102. 11102. Look at this. The flight plan does the math down there. That is essentially all the fuel that we have in the airplane that we need beyond getting to Athens. So that gets us to our alternate if we have to go to the alternate. That is 30 minutes of holding time if we have to hold for 30 minutes or do some go-arounds, and 15 minutes of extra fuel. So remaining fuel should be for the McDo, it should be 11.1 or more. Remember, I boarded more fuel, so right now it's 12.9. If you're in across the pond, you're watching this number, and these numbers do tend to change a little bit with the winds. So now I've got a little safety margin here, and so I'm not going to invade the alternate holding and extra fuel numbers that I'm supposed to have. So that's why I added 45 minutes of taxi time, so that I stay well above that. If I'm staying well above that, that means I'm not going to run out of gas in the middle of across the pond. And again, the whole point is to avoid other people laughing at you as your airplane falls out of the sky in the middle of the biggest VATSIM events of the year. Looking down here, we'll go back to the performance page. So we're still expected to land in Athens around 1606 Zulu time. Our descent, we are now 695 nautical miles from top of descent. It's now calculating that, and we estimate our top of descent is going to be at 1541 Zulu. And if you wonder what time it is right now, it is 1422. So we got about an hour and 20 minutes or so before top of descent. So that's what we got there. And so that's the information that we have. By now, the captain's probably made an announcement saying all the things that I said there without, going down the how much gas do we have rabbit hole. And everything else is good. So let's do a tour of the airplane. This is a classic two-person cockpit from Airbus. We have two observer seats back here. And I actually thought that there was one over here. If we look back here, we've got a couple of books. I think that they should put some spy stories in there, but that's just me. Let's see, we've got, I believe that's going to be first aid. We can go ahead and close and see what's here. Let's see, we got a closet. So there is a closet, there's the breathing hood, there is disc stowage. I guess that's for like movie discs and stuff. Now that would be for flight software. So we got a nice place to put your coat. There's more disc towage. I think we may have just found a typo. Shh. Airbuses don't come with spell check. Okay, and everything's looking pretty good here. A nice, nice, nice cockpit. So there's oxygen. There's another, there's a place for the captain to put the captain's flight bag. Okay, I don't think that I can open this right now because I think the locked thing is good here. So we got to come down here and we got to unlock the door. Door is open. Let's see if we can open the door. Yeah, now we can open the door. So back we go and let's see what's in the airplane. Well, we got a galley back here. So looks like we've got some heaters. I think that these are galley heaters. Let's see. There's some flight attendant seats over there. And if you look over here, I'm not sure if I'm really looking at this correctly, but tell me that that is not a cappuccino machine. They put a cappuccino espresso machine there because this is what you use for foaming the milk, right? I think we've got a cappuccino machine on this airplane. This is great. Let's see. Come on back here. I don't think that we can go into the bathrooms and there's nothing there. Here are the really nice first class seats. I'm going to guess that those are lay flat seats. There's some nice monitors in there. This is going to probably be business class, 2x2x2. So nice seats here, so I think we're in business class. And we'll keep coming back here. I think we've got more storage for galley stuff. Looks like we have another cappuccino machine. Looks like a little bit more business class here. Seats 2x2. Look outside the window. See a very, very big wing and engines. So keep coming back here. And what do we have? We've still got seats are, nope, they're a little more narrow. So I'm going to guess that this is going to probably be Economy Plus. So there's Economy Plus. Let's keep going back. And this is probably, yeah. And now we've got seats. Okay, there's 4 of them. 4x2s. I'm going to guess that this is what they called on the Titanic steerage. So I'm going to guess this is real economy. I think there's another espresso machine there. This is the serious back part of the airplane. This is where they make me sit and say, don't ever touch any buttons, you flight sim people. Here's the back cabin. Oh, look at that. We actually have coffee pots here. So there's coffee pots. There's some more cooking things. If you look at the seats, there's some monitors here. I believe that this is attached to the nose camera. That is clearly right there. That is terrain. That's terrain there. So I'm guessing they're trying to put something there, but this is what I believe is the nose camera. So that's what that is. And move forward. See, if you look, an awful lot of simulated jets now, they're now simulating the no smoking and fasten seatbelt signs. So if your seatbelt sign is off like ours is, seatbelt lights are off in your back cabin. So I think that's pretty cool. So there's another coffee machine, and oh wow, what is this thing? No trolley parking. Oh, look at that. It's a stairway, and we can go down. And it is a bathroom zone. So this is downstairs lavatories. And if you come over here, there's this little door here. And if you look in on the other side of the door, you see there's the main landing gear. So there's the main landing gear there. There's some seats up there. But here is bathrooms. So we've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bathrooms downstairs. They're probably way too small. Oh, and a Wi-Fi hotspot down here. So I guess you could come downstairs and get a Wi-Fi hotspot. And there we got this little stairway. That's kind of interesting. So more places to go and recycle coffee or beer. Now we're back in Economy Plus. And now we're starting to, okay, this looks like business class. Okay, that is a little bit concerning. I think maybe we got a weather change. Let's just go back and make sure the engine changed. You heard the engine tempo change? So my guess is we probably got a weather change from Active Sky. That's what I use as my weather engine, is Active Sky. And so if you get a sudden change like that, just go look over. Okay, did I bump my controls? No, I didn't bump my controls. Must have been a weather change. But it's always a good thing to see, hey, are we falling out of the sky or anything? Look back down here. Still 12.9 is my estimated fuel on board for landing. Our arrival time has not changed. We've our top of descent hasn't changed. So all of that is looking really, really good. This does have the, this is the little tablet. This is called, which one is this? This is Avatab. So you can also use it with Avatab. I actually don't do an awful lot with Avatab. I should do more. One thing I do like is to see what my FPS is. And we're at 50 FPS. ToLiss has done a great job of modeling nice airplanes, great systems, pretty decent cabins, and the frame rates are awesome. And so this is an airplane that you really should feel good about taking on across the pond. Last thing we'll do before we go and start making food and stuff like that is you can go to the McDo menu and you can see FM1. You can also go over here and you can see the aircraft monitoring system is a work in progress. Go to the bottom, it says ATSU. So there is the ATC menu. Here is the AOC. We were talking about this. This is where you could go and init your flight plan. This is how you'd start the flight plan, but you can see that that just says work in progress. You can take a look here and do weather request, work in progress, NOTAMs request, work in. So these are things that I feel like they wouldn't have set up if they weren't planning on doing something with someday. So at some point in time, I think we're going to be able to get these things. You can look at received messages. We don't have any received messages. This is the CPDLC message reader. So a clearance would come through here, weather will come through here, and more airplanes are starting to be, this is becoming active now. Like the fly-by-wire A340, excuse me, the Neo over in Microsoft Flight Simulator. This thing's starting to work here, so we're going to be having those for across the pond. Okay, the current time is 14:32 Zulu. Back over to the performance page. Okay, we may have to go to the ATSU menu again. We have to do McDo menu and then hit FM1. Now we could probably hit the performance page. Good. So right now it says 14:32. Top of descent is 15:41. I have a whole hour to go to the spy galley and make breakfast. So the airplane's just going to cruise. We can go and take a quick look and see where we are. So we have just cleared, just got over Venice. So we're going to go down the west side of the Adriatic, go over the heel, and come on in, go over Kefalonia. So if you are an Assassin's Creed fan and play Odyssey, this is where you start Assassin's Creed Odyssey on Kefalonia. So we're going to do that and come into Athens. We can do one last thing, LGAV. Let's do a quick check of the weather here. Here is our Athens weather. Winds are 210 at 10, So current plan for landing on runway 21 is pretty good. So 210 at 12. Very nice. A few clouds, 2,500. It's 18 degrees in Athens. QNH is 1011. It looks like a couple of showers, but nothing really ahead of us. I'm expecting a very nice approach into Athens. So there we go. We did it. Like I said, I'm going to basically go ahead and give us about an hour. It's breakfast time here, so you get to go and do something. If any of this didn't make sense to you, be sure and go and have a quick look at the the video. Roll the video back if there were some things that I skipped. Obviously, I skipped the init page B. So, you know, clearly we're still flying, but I shouldn't have skipped that. And Hey, welcome back. That was a fast 30 seconds, wasn't it? Thanks for coming on in. I hope you're doing good. Breakfast was great. I hope your flight is going well. We have got the big development here is the top of descent hockey stick has appeared right there. So it's time to start preparing for our descent. We are coming up on the Greek island of Kefalonia, and that's that little spot right about there. And again, I like to always point out, if you're starting the game Assassin's Creed Odyssey, that's the island where you're starting. So one of the things that I just did was I went and I got the latest METAR for Athens. Winds are still 210 at 9. Good visibility. There's a few clouds at 2,500. The temperature is 16 degrees. Dew point is 8, so don't think we have to worry about fog. And the altimeter is 1010. So no significant weather in Athens. And our current plan for the arrival runway of runway 21 left is still a really good plan based on the wind. One good way, if you are a beginner at this airplane thing, a really great way to start looking at things like that and looking at how the weather is going to affect you is this website right here. It's called metar-taf.com. Okay, I'll try and put a link to this in the description. Fact is, let's go right over here. I'm going to put this over in my flight notes. That way it'll be there. Okay, good. So what you do is put in LGAV. It's worldwide. So once you do that, come on in here, and you can see this is going to give you a visual representation of what the wind is doing and your runway. Well, we're coming in on 21 left. You can select runways down here, and you can see the wind's just whistling right down the runway. 10 miles. Looks like there's a few clouds at 3,000 or 2,500. And that's about it. It even gives you the altimeter setting. This one gives it to you in inches of mercury. So one thing, it shows you the historical data on that one. There's got to be a way to switch this over to hectopascals. Maybe we do that in settings, display temperatures, barometric press. Okay, so you appear, oh, you got to log in for this. So if you want to do it there, otherwise you can convert. By and large, I think it's a really great little website. So there you go. So top of descent is coming on up here. Let's see. Eventually, we're going to be putting our arrival information in. You see, we got 136 miles to top of descent. So everything in the airplane's good. How is our fuel on board? Fuel is great. We still got 12.2 tons that were expected on the ground. We're not going to run out of gas. That's another good thing. So let's look down here. And our approach, we can look in here and see 3,000 feet. That's going to be our final descent altitude. Over on the spy flight, I like to be more dramatic and call it the final plunge altitude. As we look at coming in here at the Athena VOR, here, we want to be above 7,000 feet. On the approach, it also is saying we want to be above 7,000 feet here at the end, which is the Agena non-directional beacon. Doesn't give us that altitude there, but it does give us that altitude. Whoops, that's the SAR, the SID going out. It does tell us there, above 7,000 feet. And we stay above 7,000 feet as we go over Venizelos Airport and as we continue around, but then as we come out here, then we can descend to 3,000 feet. And then it's above 1,900 feet as we kind of come over the beach on final approach. So a couple of things to do. Let's also make note of the fact that the ILS frequency is 111.1 and that the four-letter identifier for this ILS is IEVL. That will leave the door open to some evil jokes for sure. So we can go down to the radio page, and right now there's nothing in there. But as we get closer, we should check back, and this airplane is so smart, it should put that in there for us. But if it doesn't, we may need to do that ourselves. So we would end up putting in the frequency and the course, and everything else should pop in there. But right now, we're far enough out that I don't think we need to worry about it. There is the flight plan, 266 miles to go. Looks like it's still got us on the ground about 1609, so that's within about 5 minutes of what we're expected as far as our arrival at the gate. That's good news there. So one thing we can do as this thing gets closer and closer, usually when this thing starts to get within about 80 miles or something like that, that's when I'm going to go and put in a descent altitude. Now this airplane's pretty smart. This airplane knows what the constraints are going to be going down, so we could probably put the final plunge altitude of 1,900 feet, and this airplane will follow the constraints. Not all of the Airbuses in Flight Simulator will do that, and if you're on VATSIM and you blow through one of those constraints, that could cause a problem, like say around London or something like that, where you might be doing just fine coming into Heathrow, but you're in the descent path for, London City or Luton or Stansted. So, the constraints are there for a reason, and it's mostly traffic flow. So the only other thing I think we could do is we could go to the performance page, and we can come over here and we can come in, and these are the numbers, the arrival weather. And one of the things we can do is we can put in our decision height. And generally, for something like this, I usually go and grab the Category 1 DME. And that's going to be 510 feet. If we're Category 2, it's 95 feet. But in this case, 510 feet. And you put that in the MDA box. Other Airbuses, it's labeled Barrow. Or you could put in 200 feet for DH, decision height. But I'm going to put in 510 right now, so 510. Let's go back to performance. 100 miles. There's 100 miles there. Can we see Kefalonia out there? Well, you can kind of see it behind some of the clouds there. Yeah, seems like for me the clouds are always covering up scenery. Anything there? Yeah, there's a couple little islands over there. So as we continue to get closer and closer. As far as anything else, there might be a cabin call that we'd make and say, hey, look, we're about 10, 15, minutes from descent. Let the cabin crew know we're going to probably do a normal descent. Everything's going to be fine, so that they can make announcements back to the customers that says, hey, getting ready to do that descent thing. Start thinking about having to put your seatbelt back on. Top of descent hockey stick's looking pretty good there. By the way, it hasn't warmed up a bit since the beginning of this video, and in fact, I think we've gotten about another quarter of an inch of snow out there. Yeah, it hasn't warmed up at all. Snow all over the place. Boy, is it nice to be inside. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Meant to do this one. And do warm hot coffee and a fun airplane. Talk about a great way to spend a snow day. Okay, everything's looking good here. Looks like 80 miles, so how about if we go and dial from 160 to 80? See, Kefalonia is showing up even better. No hockey. Oh, there it is. It's just showing up there. So it's just showing up at 80 miles. This is our winds. Looks like we've got a slight quartering tailwind at about 20 knots here. So it hasn't been too terribly windy today. And now let's do our turn. Well, okay, you can see just a little bit of the island right there. Just a little bit of the island. So we don't get to see Icarus or anything like that today. Now at this point in time, as I start to see things generally in my workflow somewhere between 80 and 60, this is when I'm going to finalize in my mind, okay, what are we going to do? Well, this is a really good airplane, so we're going to trust the airplane, and we're going to go and put that final plunge altitude in, and that's going to be 3,000 feet to come in. So let's go ahead and dial in 3,000 feet. There's 3,000 feet, so that's ready to go. I think that this is going to add pop in that says update arrival information. That's going to be the weather. Right now, the current time on the airplane and in the sim is 15:36. That's also real time. So we can look over here. My latest weather was 15:20. Boy, that's pretty current weather. So this is probably going to be our arrival weather coming on in. If you're in a big VATSIM event and you don't have an arrival gate or something like that, usually after you land and you switch over to ground control, they will probably tell you, say something to you like, say parking. Where are you parking today? Or something like that. Well, that's one of those questions like, huh? What? I just landed. What's this about parking? They want to know where to send you after you've landed. So in our case, we're going to be coming in here, probably getting the D5 or D4 high speed. Then there's D4, there's D Charlie. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to one of these bigger gates here. See these little guys here? These are kind of scrunched up. Let's say A03. And we're going to say, so if ground were to ask me to say parking, I'd say Alpha 3. That's the gate that we're going to just choose. So let's just go ahead and put in here, and that's what these are for, A03. So you can do that. Now, if this is sort of like, huh, what? I don't know how to figure that out. Give me some other way than just picking something out of thin air. Well, another thing that you could do is you could go to the real world. And by going to the real world, what you could do is say, okay, this is flight aware. We took off from LSZH. We took off from LSZH, not K, L, LSCH, and we're going to LGAV. And let's hit the button. Wow, look at this. Here are Swiss Air flights and Aegean Airlines flights. So let's grab this A321. Well, this flight took off from gate A71. It has landed. Well, okay, so this was a pretty bad example. Sometimes it gives you an arrival gate, sometimes it doesn't. But you could go over here and maybe it would give you an arrival gate. Okay, so not only did I forget to do the init page B, but I also got hung out to dry by them not reporting arrival gates. Okay, sometimes it does work. And so if I am doing a flight like a VATSIM flight, I'm going to go and say, okay, if I'm going to fly Olympic or I'm going to fly United or something like that, I might actually look and see what United Real World is doing so that I know what gate I might depart from and what gate I might arrive at. And that way I can give ATC a semi-intelligent answer. And I've spent far too much on that particular topic. Let's see here. No smoking remains on. We're 40 miles out. Gee, that example just didn't work out too terribly well, did it? Okay, everything else is good in the airplane. One of the things that the real pilots will do is what I call running through the ECAM. And so running through the ECAM is basically you get a view like this, and you look at the lower ECAM and hit the engine button. And this is how you're able to look at your vibration, your oil, take a look at all of the engine operating parameters and see, yep, everything's good. We'll look at the bleeds and take a look at pressurization in the airplane. This is actually just what's coming out of the engines. Pressurization's the next one. So the airplane is not climbing or descending. The airplane is pressurized to 7,000 feet. This is electricity. This is our AC system. So all the generators are online. The generator for engine 1 is on the ESS, the essential system. We can go the DC. Now, one of the things that they say about the batteries on the DC is to check the amperages. If the amperages are like going crazy, that means you're overcharging your batteries. And you know, if you don't have failures turned on, it's not that big of a deal. But if you have failures turned on, well, there you go. Hydraulics. Generally, from what I'm told, in real Airbuses, the green system is the one that works the hardest, so that's going to always be the lowest. But the real-world pilots are going to look over here and make sure that there's still plenty of hydraulic fluid. APU should be off and dark. APU is off and dark. Air conditioning. Here's the temperature in the airplane. Based on, there's all of these different temperature zones. It also gives you temperature in bulk and cargo. Here's the situation as far as the doors. The doors are closed. Slides are armed. Wheel temperatures. Temperatures, the degrees Celsius, that's brake temperatures. It also gives you the PSI of your tires. You know, do we have to get out and pump up the tires? Flight controls. Are anything's flapping around? You know, maybe one of the hydraulics is turned red, telling us that there might be a problem there. And then here is the status of the fuel tanks. You can also hit the STS status button. If there's been an ECAM warning, this is where it would be, it would still show up. Hit clear and it puts us back into cruise mode. We are now 29 nautical miles out from top of descent and enter destination data. So we'll go over here and hit cruise, descend, and approach. Now I'm going to clear it and put in the data. I always try to make sure that I not clear an alert or a to-do item from down here until I'm actually doing it at the time. Otherwise, if I get distracted, sometimes I forget. 1010. There is the altimeter, 1010, 1010. Temperature in Athens is 16 degrees. The winds in Athens are 210 at 9, 210 at 09. Transition altitude, we can look over here and look at the star. Generally, we'll say that the transition level is set by ATC. If that's the case, take the transition altitude for departing traffic at 1,000 feet, and there's your transition level, so 10,000 feet. And lo and behold, this airplane said flight level 50. Doesn't look right. So I'm going to go and go 100. And that's our transition according to that. And I think that that's set up. So flight level 100. Let's go to back to perf, 14 miles to top of descent. Now on the older Airbuses, the IndyBuilds airplanes, there is a click spot that you can go and you can actually arm a descent. I don't think that you do that in these more modern Airbuses. I think the modern Airbus wants the pilot to say, yes, you can actually do that descent kind of thing. So as we get a little bit closer to our top of descent, 11 miles now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to make it a managed descent. Remember when we reset the altimeter to standard, we grabbed it and pulled it? Well, in this case, we're going to grab this, and you can see it's changed to a hand. We're going to hold it down and move the mouse forward. And what that should do is push it in to make this a managed descent. And this airplane is smart enough, it will handle a managed descent. Some airplanes are a little, aren't ready to do managed descents, but I'm sure they will be eventually. This is one that I'm pretty confident is going to work out just fine. That little top of descent hockey sticks closer and closer. We're within 5 miles. I think it's okay to go ahead and hit the button. So I'm gonna got my pointer there, click, push, and the dot appears, and we'll look over here and see, look at that, it says descend. And look at this, see this pink FL70? That's the airplane being super duper smart and saying, you know what? I know that on this descent, I can come in here at Nimes, and I don't see anything on this, but I do know that we're not supposed to go below 7,000 feet here. So the airplane's going to stop at 7,000 feet. So we got that. Now there's another little thing here, and I've got this kind of named after another live streamer on Twitch. I call this the Sim Caesar Donut, because Sim Caesar has donut emotes. But if you look over here, you see this little pink thing going down. That is your descent profile. And that is the airplane slowing itself down and descending. And when this thing is centered, then you are on the profile. So that means you're going down at the best altitude. And it should do this thing next. See where it says thrust descent? And soon it might even say descent idle. And that means that the engines are idling and we're just sort of coasting down, which means we're saving a bunch of gas. So we are now descending and things are pretty good. We're starting to be able to see some more of the Greek islands here. And so I do like to suggest, if you're flying X-Plane 10 and you've got the disk space and the time, ortho scenery is really good. It makes the scenery look great. And if you know that you're going to be flying to Athens, spending the few dollars and grabbing the Payware Airport for Athens is really pretty nice too, the scenery. That being said, we do have at this point in time, as of February of 2022, we are anxiously awaiting news about the arrival of X-Plane 12, and I'm expecting some improvements in scenery. Excuse me. So we should be ready for cool stuff like that. Passing 35,000 feet, it's not uncommon for the Sim Caesar Donut to waver a little bit. If it goes all the way down and it gets pegged down here at the bottom, you may have to throw out some speed brakes because the airplane needs to descend faster, and so you're going to need some speed brakes on that. So let's see, things are good here. It's a very smooth flight. It's been a very nice flight today, so seatbelt signs have been off. Again, my altitude in the back of my head is around 25,000 feet unless there's turbulence. So 25,000 feet, that's when I'm going to flip on the seatbelt sign. I suspect that some airlines probably have a policy on when to turn those on and off, and other airlines probably leave it up to pilot's discretion. So who knows? That's probably a very, very secret corporate company secret. So obviously I don't have a lot of concern about those sorts of things. Okay, so everything's looking good to go here. I don't see any problems there. All of this is looking good. There's 32,000 feet. 1548, that was about the time that we were expecting our descent. We are now 113 miles away from our destination. Still looks like we are getting there about 1606. We are supposed to be in at the gate at 1605 Zulu, according to the flight plan. Remember all of these little numbers that I gave you here. So this it's this bank of numbers right over here, and you'll find them on various places in the flight plan. Out, off, on, in. Out is when the airplane's supposed to be out from the gate. Off is when it's supposed to be off the ground. On is when it's supposed to be on the ground, and in is when you're supposed to be at the gate. And apparently those are numbers that real-world airlines, live by. That's their schedule. And I point this out because the out time and off time, those are numbers. Like this off time here, if we were in the VATSIM event, you need to be ready to push back within 10 minutes of the time that you're given for a VATSIM event. Otherwise, you might lose your slot in the sky because there's so many airplanes, like in the real world. I mean, we don't own the sky. We're renting a slot in the sky that we get. So, you have to make your departure time. Otherwise, they have to resequence you in with the rest of the traffic up there. And that could cause a further delay. 27,000 feet, a nice little turn here. Everything looks good there. On longer haul types of flights and stuff like that, you know, you've got your gamer chair or the chair that you're sitting in, and you might kind of fold up in the chair and sit back and get a little bit comfortable. One of the things to do is as you're getting closer and closer to the airport, you've probably seen in live streamers, you know, they've got the posture check because you get kind of lazy sitting in your chair. Well, got to sit back up, make sure that you can reach your throttle controls. Make sure that if you have rudder pedals, you're sitting straight up so that you can do the rudders. If you're kind of folded up in the chair, you're not going to be able to push the rudders correctly, and that could be a problem. There is the Didymon VOR. There's the Agena non-directional beacon. So as we get in closer and closer, I go and make my map smaller and smaller. So there's 40 miles. There's Didymon there. 25,000 feet. This is usually the point when I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, time for everybody to sit down. Like most airplanes, there's on and auto. I know that auto is there to save me a little bit of time, but I generally, I guess it's just me. If, you know, seatbelts are on, I want them on. You know, and so, you know, leaving it to auto is sort of like, well, is it really? I guess it's working and I should trust those things, but if there's auto, why bother having a switch? Which probably makes no sense at all. So seatbelts are now on. I have terrain radar is on too. Terrain radar works. We also, if there was rain and stuff, there's weather radar that we can use. Passing 23,000 feet. How are we doing as far as our descent profile? Sometimes it's kind of hard to see, but yep, the Sim Caesar donut is right there. So we are right where we're supposed to be in the sky for maximum efficiency on our descent. It's going to be a full flaps descent, landing I mean, and we'll start thinking about putting the flaps out a little bit. I don't think you can see it yet. So if you look over here on the speed tape, one of the things that you're going to see is two little amber lines that are going to show up. So that's the top end of your flap extension speeds. I call those the hash marks. I don't know if that's the official term, but those are what I call the hash marks. And so when I see those, that lets me know, okay, it's safe for another notch of flaps. I usually wait until we get a little bit closer to the actual green dot type indicator, but if you're going a little fast or you're a little bit high, if you throw them out a little bit early, that might add enough drag to help you get closer to where it is you want to be. We do have a fairly tight turn here at Didymon. We're coming down pretty quick. So we're at about 310. I think the airplane takes that into account. We should be able to make a good turn over that VOR. You can tell as we look over here, and if we go way over the VOR, well, look at that. It's already starting the turn based on our speed. So we're going to make the turn just perfect. Now, for some reason, this thing had Kia in there. I don't know why it had Kia in there. We're not doing that approach. Is Kia in this? No, it wasn't in the flight plan. So no clue about that little aspect of all this. Here is a pink dot here in the flight path. That is a slowdown point. So pink dot is to slow it down. So that's when the airplane will start slowing itself down. Nice little puffy clouds out there. The temperature outside the airplane. Total air temperature is 1 degree. So if we were in a bunch of clouds, I'd be worried about icing. But it's just a little whiff of cloud here and there, so probably not worth getting freaked out about. There's big square panels here. This is an error in my scenery. I have no idea, but somehow, for some silly reason, off the coast of Athens, my scenery puts those square dots in there. Very annoying, and I don't know how to get rid of it. So far, so good. One of the things is as we get closer, one of the things that we can do is we can just go and hit the weather button one more time. METAR. The last METAR I got was at 1520. This is at 1550. Okay, so here's the latest weather for Athens. So usually what I will do is do a copy-paste and try and put these in my notes. And again, this little notepad that I've got here is something I will copy and paste that into. I will copy and paste this into the description here on YouTube. So you can just copy and paste that and create your own little notepad, and you can keep your own notes like this. Originally, to start off, if you're just getting started on VATSIM, I'm going to suggest a piece of paper and a pen. But eventually, you're going to get to the point where you don't need to write that much stuff down, and most of the notes that you are going to write down are things that can go into a formatted notepad like that. And at that point in time, you can save paper. Because boy, I will tell you, there was a time when I was really printing up a lot of paper. Greta was very upset at me. Okay, I'm not trying to be mean to Greta, I'm sorry. Okay, so remember I was telling you about those two little, what I call the hash marks? Okay, this is when I can start throwing out some flaps if I want to. Oh my goodness, we've got a little bit of turbulence here. There is a bit of bounciness. Good thing the passengers are in their seats. Okay, there is the Agena VOR. So now we're coming on in over here. As we come on in, if you see some lights over there, it's kind of small. There is Venizelos Airport. So we actually go over the airport as we do the approach on this one. And they want us at 7,000 feet or higher. So we're going to be good there. Remember, there's also airplanes that are taking off, going in this general direction. They're taking off and landing to the west. So, you know, staying at 7,000 feet until we get past this spot here keeps us out of departing airplanes' way. Out of, you know, we're not going to be in their altitude. Still going to wait and see what kind of slowdown we get here. There's also another pink dot here, so there is another slowdown coming up as well. So we got a couple of slowdowns coming up on 10,000 feet. Let's go and look at the radio page. Remember we talked about this earlier. Oh, and look at that. So IEVL, evil, is in there, and 111.1. If you feel like being a real pilot, you can come over here and you verify these things. 111.1, IEVL, we know that. Inbound course, 212. And the course inbound, 212. Perfect. Just what the doctor ordered. We'll go back to the performance page now. So we're all set and ready to go there. As we're coming in over the coast of Athens. So there's the Port of Piraeus over there. The Parthenon and the Acropolis is going to be over there. Then you go over these little hills. Ah, this might be even better to look out there. Night lighting is getting better and better. It really is getting nice. That's the highway that goes out of town and goes around this hill and then takes you over to the airport, among other places. Okay, we're getting closer and closer. Let's go ahead and dial the map down to 20 miles. We've got a slowdown. Is our speed slowing down? Look at that. There it is. And you can see the arrow indicating that our speed is slowing down. Once we get past those two little hash marks there, I could start throwing out some flaps if I wanted to. We are getting kind of close, so let's go ahead and I'm going to arm my speed brakes for arrival. There's speed brakes that are armed. I'm going to come over here and let's do auto brakes 3. That should work. Our speed is coming down, coming down, coming down. Are we past the little hash marks yet? Can I do flaps? Yep, we are. So let's go ahead and do flaps 1. That's going to help us keep control of our speed a little bit on the descent. And we can look out up there, and there is our airport. So there's the highway that I was mentioning that kind of goes around the hill here. And then you drive, passengers drive in through here. So there is passenger drop-off. I believe this is a payware from Fly Tampa. So this is the Fly Tampa scenery. From what I understand, it didn't. The Fly Tampa scenery did not play nicely with. Did not play very nicely with the ortho scenery. So they had an ortho conversion tool that was okay. Wasn't, you know, not great, not terrible, but it works. We're still on our descent path. We're now down to about 240 knots. That's not so bad. Uh-oh, STD, standard, altimeter time. Our altimeter is 1010. So in this case, we click and push. 1010. Let's also re-verify. We got new weather. I didn't re-verify. So 1010, the temperature in Athens is, oh, it changed 15 degrees. I should have updated that. What did the wind do? Wind is 200 at 9, 200 at 09. So there was a slight wind shift. There we go. All that's up to date. Back to perf. We're still in descent mode. We got to slow down here. That's going to probably slow us down to about 210. That'll give us another notch of flaps. And now we're going out over the east coast. So out over, I guess it's a little bit of a bay out over towards the Aegean Sea. If you care, the favorite spy party place is going to be Mykonos and Naxos over there. And as we continue to come in, I'm going to do my last click of the map. I'm also going to hit the LS button. That activates the landing system. That's going to give us glide slope and localizer. So now's a good time. Move your chair around. Make sure that you're in the right spot. Make sure you're sitting up correctly. You're not leaning back. Looking down, you can get your feet over on the rudder pedals. Yep, that looks good. And all of that is looking good. Okay, so let's go over here. And now we're going to stop at 7,000 feet here. You know what I forgot to do? We were in the star, we were coming down, go from airports to constraints. That's going to show our altitudes. So look at that, 7,000 feet here, but then we can start a descent here. And there's also the slowdown. So as soon as we hit 7,000, we should probably start slowing it down again. Any second now. Yep, there's a slowdown to about 210 knots. Here's another set of hash marks for our next set of flaps. And we're descending down to 3,000. And we'll start our turn. As you get better with Flight Simulator, at a certain point in time, you can start turning the autopilot off sooner and sooner. But as you're getting started with these complicated jets and stuff like that, don't be afraid to use the autopilot. I mean, that's what it's for. The real world pilots are using it. It keeps you in your proper place in the sky a lot easier. But eventually, you're going to want to turn the autopilot off more and more. While I'm doing a video, I'm going to leave it on. But I'm taking my autopilot off earlier and earlier. And that's fun. But it does take learning about these airplanes and learning to, you know, feel the airplanes out a bit. That sounded particularly gross, but okay, let's. Yeah, boy, this one has been one for the record books. Okay, we are almost below that little hash mark there. If the speed goes down just a little bit more, I could throw out another little notch of flaps. I might do it anyway. The airplane might yell at me, but it might induce a little more drag. There is flaps 2. Okay, it didn't yell at me. How about that? Now, as we come in like this, I start to want to take control of my speed here. And part of the reason is air traffic control is going to speed you up and slow you down depending upon traffic. So coming out here, we're going to go over here, and I'm going to grab the speed, click, and pull. And now I'm going to go and get my speed to 210. As we make this turn to final, though, I want to go and slow down just a little bit more. I want to go to 180. And generally, I've noticed as I've watched real-world airplanes on like FlightAware and stuff, they do this last phase at about 180 until about 5 miles from the runway. Once you do that, go over here to the descent page, hit Activate Approach, confirm it, and then I usually note the VAP or approach speed, 143, and I always add a little bit to that. But as our speed comes down, we're below another set of hash marks. Flaps are now going to 3. I now have glide slope and localizer. It does show that we are a little bit high at the moment, but I think we're going to catch up just fine. We may not, though, so let's go ahead and continue our descent to 1,900. Let's let it continue to do the descent and see if that'll get us down there to that 1,900, because I think it was going to stop us at 3,000. We're still catching up with that glide slope, though, so that's good. We're at 180 knots. And a nice big turn. Look at how deep those flaps are. And a really nice sunset approach into Athens, Greece. I will tell you, in Microsoft Flight Simulator and in X-Plane, sunrise and sunset flights, sunrises and sunsets in simulators are getting better and better. I gotta tell you. Okay, looking at this, here's our intercept point. Here comes localizer. So let's come on up here, and I'm gonna hit the approach button. Get a little help. This is gonna arm the localizer and glide slope for us. And so this is gonna set us up on the runway. Now I will tell you that my scenery is a little wonky with the ILS over on runway 21 right. I haven't done 21 left in a while. I think it's okay. But 21 right, I was on approach here the other day, and it was extremely cranky. Okay, there is the edge of the runway. You can see that right there. There's 7.5 miles. This checkpoint here, last one before the runway, always seems to be about 5 miles out. So everything is good to go. I'm going to look up here. Let's do the cabin call, although we may have to do it again. There we go. I'm also going to lean back now. I'm gently putting my feet on the rudder pedals and settling back in my seat. Make sure your seat isn't going to tilt back. Reach down, make sure I can grab my, get my stick and my throttle, that they haven't moved too much, because things are going to start happening a little faster. Okay, we have localizer. We are on glide slope.
2,500.
We are coming up on 5 miles out. Almost there. So I usually wait until the edge of the runway touches the 5. Beautiful approach, nice lights. Clearly the time to be arriving here in Athens.
2,000.
Okay, that's close enough. 5 miles. We're going to go back to manage speed, push it in. Let's do landing gear. And I'm going to look over here. Is there another set of hash marks? There are. We're below it. Flaps are full. Gear's going down. I'm going to make sure that I've got the green indicators for landing gear. There's green, 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 and then look over here. This is your ECAM checklist. If the ECAM checklist is green, you're ready to land. But I also do take a look over there and always do, you know, gear down, 3 green. Do I have those 3 greens? Otherwise, I forget. And now here we are. We're coming in fairly nicely. Speed is right on. So I'm slowly getting ready to sit down over here. My hand's kind of over here on the side stick now. So the side stick, just like this one. I'm using the Thrustmaster Airbus side stick. I really like it.
1,000.
Getting ready to go over and grab my throttles. You can see some traffic out there driving around. We're right on the glide slope, right on the localizer. If it's been a long day, if you're tired, you're just having some fun flying, go ahead and let the autopilot take it until you're ready. No crime in leaving the autopilot on for a while. You could also engage autopilot 2 and make it a category 3 landing. So you could do an auto land.
500.
Okay, the last thing I do, look here, and I'm going to see my wind indicator. See the wind indicator? It's off to the left.
300.
That tells me what the wind. AP is now off.
Minimum.
Continue.
200.
You are going to have to hit your autopilot button a second time. And that silences the alarm.
100. 50.
Whoop.
40.
Whoa!
30.
I think I re-engaged it. Oh, yeah, you have to hit the button.
10.
Retard. 5. Retard.
Yeah, okay. On this airplane, some of my airplanes, if you hit the autopilot button a second time, if you hit that the second time, that will go about silencing the alarm. Not on this one. There's reversers. There's 60 knots. Stow the reversers. Tap the auto brakes. We'll do manual braking. And a beautiful night in Athens. And there is that first high speed I was talking about. Most pilots are going to wait until after they get off the runway. I usually go ahead and slide my flaps up and my speed brakes down. Train radar's going off. Landing light, I was a bad pilot, didn't turn on my lights. There's the nose light. Very bad pilot today. Forgetting the init B. Forgetting landing lights. Hey, we didn't forget our coffee though. We took care of the most serious part of flight simming. Okay, we are now off on Delta 5, I believe. So at Delta 5, and you could look in there and see there's Delta that says Charlie. So that looks good. While we're coming in, we're going to look up here. Let's get this open. Yep, says Delta 5. So Delta 5, we were saying we wanted A3. There is A3. They're going to make the big long airplanes, give them the best taxis. And as we continue to come up, let's go ahead and get that APU rolling. Happy Pappy, who flies with us over on Twitch all the time, who does real-world ground control, ground marshalling of airplanes, says, be nice to the ground crew. Turn off your nose light as you're coming in. And you can see that we have gate guidance coming in here. 765. I always tap the brakes a little bit too soon. 4, 3, 2, 1, and stop. So parking brakes are going on. If you look over here, now there is a blue M. So this is another add-on that I have, and this is called SAM3. And Scenery Animation Manager is this one. So that's what SAM3 is. We still have engines going. So let's look over here. Is the APU available? It is. I'm going to turn on the bleed, and then we can come down here. Engine 4, 3, 2, 1. There goes our engines. Let's stop squawking mode Charlie. Should have turned off TCAS as well. Looking up here, I should have done my strobes off the runway. I didn't do that. The engines are off. We're going to do the beacon now. We'll also come over here and do seatbelts going off. We're also going to disarm the emergency exit doors. And we have got a whole bunch of fuel pumps to turn off. And then there's auxiliary pumps. And I think that's got them. Probably doesn't have them all. But there's fuel pumps. And now you could go outside the airplane and you could go ahead and get SAM, click the button, click the gate, and Scenery Animation Manager will go and get your jetway. So here comes our really nice jetway, sponsored by Piraeus Bank, the #1 bank. If you've left your doors on auto, this is going to go ahead and open up all of your doors. And we now have a gate in place. So you could go if you wanted to, and at this point you could go to the giant green box, put chocks in place. You could also get your ground power turned on. We'll open the main doors. So here comes your cargo. And there goes the cargo doors. And if you want, you could even walk over here. And because we've all been not doing traveling or anything else, you could even walk around here if you wanted to. Kind of peek around. And one of my very favorite things to do in life is walking down a jetway going someplace. And there is a jetway. And some jetways, they're starting, some of the designers are now starting to model jetways. And you can even start a walk down a jetway. I forgot what it's like. Can't wait for the next time that I walk down a jetway. Some scenery designers are doing a very nice job of modeling the inside of terminals. One of the most interesting terminals, one of the first ones that I saw that was modeled really nicely was, what was it? It was Tromsø, Norway, was a really nicely modeled inside of the terminal. And there's some other ones. And so that's kind of a nice little opportunity to kind of go around. So you can see we've got, there's the Hertz counter over there. And we're still in inside the airplane mode. If we want to go a little bit faster, we can go and do outside the airplane mode. And you can see this airport is really nicely done on the outside. This is one of the good ones, I think. I think they did a nice job of this, you know, especially outside. The really nice blue at sunrises and sunsets is absolutely outstanding. Not kidding. Kind of look around here. And of course, if we're in Greece, you do know that they're going to have the Olympic rings. So anyway, I got to tell you, this is really nice. And there you go. This is the A340. It is a great airplane for cross the pond, I think. This is an awesome long-haul airplane. Hey, let's take a look and see what was my final score on fuel. 11.6 once we got to the gate. We still have the APU on, so maybe, what was I supposed to have? 11.1. We won in the fuel game. The time, it is 6:18. I think I was messing around a little bit, so we landed pretty close to within our proper time. So I think that we did that. There were a couple of unsuccessful things that I did out there. But by and large, there you go. I hope you enjoy this airplane. This is a fabulous airplane, and I think it's one of the best ones you can get for X-Plane right now. Thank you so much for watching. Again, this is not about the right way versus the wrong way, and there were a few wrong ways in there. But again, it's what mostly works for me when I remember the init page 2. Leave all your questions and your comments in chat. I'm relatively new here on YouTube, so I still read all the questions and the comments in chat. And if you do have some suggestions for a cold and dark or a video you'd like to see, put that in there as well. Also, please feel free to join us. I hope you will for the Spy Flights on Twitch. 757 Spy is where you're going to find us. We are flying together as just a group of really fun people. It's Tuesday through Sunday, 1900 Zulu. That's about 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And I mention spy stories every now and then as well. Thank you so much for flying along with me. I hope this worked. Remember, don't forget to fly the airplane out of an airport that you're familiar with. It really does help kind of solidify all the things that you might have learned here. And as always, stay healthy, stay safe, and see you in the friendly sim skies.